Hello everyone, this is Viraj. Welcome to GS Core. So we will be continuing our program of understanding current affairs and skilling ourselves so that we are able to solve MCQs through this particular discussion, this particular practice. Alright, so let us look at the important events that were listed in the newspaper today. First is about iOncology AI. It is basically an AI platform for the purpose of looking into ovarian and breast cancer. We'll discuss about it in detail. Then we have Code of Criminal Procedure. Discussion on Code of Criminal Procedure we will do and also look into its question. Wildlife Conservation Act, one of the most important wildlife environmental legislation, I will say. El-Nino and La Nina, something that is in news every year, and therefore it is also one of the favorites of UPSC when it comes to MCQs. In every 2 years you will find a question on El-Nino and AI. I'll tell you what to study in it, don't worry. And then we have planets and satellites. Let us look at the first concept of the day, first topic of the day basically. So it is iOncology AI. So what is iOncology AI? As I told you, it is an artificial intelligence platform, and it has been in news because it was yesterday. Yesterday it was inaugurated to the world by AIIMS Delhi. Now why is it important? Reason for its importance is first and foremost some factual information. So this has been jointly developed by AIIMS and one of the most important computing institutes in India, that is Center for Development of Advanced Computing, which is in Pune. Alright, what it will do is it will get into early detection of, it will help in early detection of breast and ovarian cancer. Breast and ovarian cancer. Alright, what it will also do is it will try to sequence the genome of, now what is genome? Genome basically is genetic structure. Genetic structure of cancer patients. Alright, so that a better understanding of the pattern of genes can be done with respect to these two types of cancer, that is breast cancer and ovarian cancer. Alright, one more thing which I would like to share with you is with respect to a server called as a server which will be used in this particular platform called as Charak1. Now as we know, Charak was one of the important Ayurveda practitioners of ancient India, तो उनके नाम पे ये server बनाया गया है. Friends, I would like to let you know something. Whenever it comes to application of a particular scientific technology or scientific platform, what all you have to remember? First and foremost, remember organizations that have built it. Its objective, its broad objective. And then you have to remember the way in which this objective will be met. Which tools will be used for the purpose of meeting the objective. So here what you have to remember? You have to remember AIIMS and CDAC. Then you have to remember about breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And then you have to see how that will be done. One of the methods is of course study of genome. So these three, if you have these three information, then you will never get wrong with respect to scientific application or scientific platforms. चलो देखते हैं. Now let us see this question. iOncology AI is developed by National Cancer Institute campus in Jhajjar. No, this particular statement is wrong. So we have already looked, it's AIIMS and CDAC. iOncology AI helps in detection and diagnosis of all types of cancer. Again, it is wrong. Not all types of cancer. iOncology AI aims to sequence the genomes of cancer patient. Absolutely correct. This information is absolutely correct. Out of the above given statements, which statement is correct? Only one statement is correct. Only one statement basically is correct. Now moving on to the next question. Here we have CRPC. CRPC CRPC basically, my dear friends, is a procedural code. Now, if I talk about procedural codes now, if I basically talk about procedural codes, what do we see with respect to it? What do we see with respect to it? So they basically tell us once the case goes into the realm of judiciary, once the case goes into the realm of judiciary, what procedures will the system take into consideration to reach justice? That is basically procedural code. That basically is procedural code. Okay. So what do we see over here? What do we see over here, and what is important with respect to CRPC? What information is with respect to CRPC important? So CRPC was basically enacted after the revolt of 1857. Not this CRPC, but the early one which we had. Okay, and it was enacted for the purpose of supplementing IPC, that is Indian Penal Code. So any crime conducted under Indian Penal Code, okay, once that case reaches the court, तो procedure क्या होगा? Procedure basically क्या होगा ना, वो बताया गया है in CRPC. That is basically noted down in the CRPC. Alright, यहाँ पे in CRPC, what do we need to see is special procedures with respect to what we need to notice, special procedures with respect to certain crimes. For example, sedition. देखो, वैसे तो what has happened is CRPC now has been replaced by criminal law reforms, but the interpretation of CRPC is in news, ठीक है, and hence this particular news was in the newspapers today. It was listed in the newspaper today. So what info is important, that has been stated by me. Alright, what info is important, that has been stated by me. If you take into consideration the information provided or the statements provided. Now the first statement is CRPC was first enacted in 1861 in reaction to Wahhabi movement. No, it was not with respect to Wahhabi movement. It was, as I told you, with respect to the revolt of 1857. Under CRPC 1973, cases with punishment greater than 2 years of imprisonment or death penalty are listed in summons cases. No, they are not listed in summons cases, they are listed in warrant cases. Okay. What is the difference between summons and warrant? Summons is to the person whose attendance court wants. Okay. Whereas warrant is with respect to an officer who must make appearance of the person possible. So warrant is to a police officer, जिसका काम है the individual जिसकी केस में रिक्वायरमेंट है उसे प्रोड्यूस करना. That is the difference. Alright, so 2 years or more, imprisonment of 2 years or more or death penalty, they come under warrant cases, not summoned cases. Third statement is for cognizable offences, a police officer may arrest without warrant under the provisions of applicable law of that time. Yes, this statement is correct. Okay. What is cognizable offense? Again a statement, again a particular term that may help you. Cognizable offense basically is an offense in which a settlement between parties is allowed. Alright, so in these statements, what do we see? First statement is incorrect, second statement is also incorrect, only the third statement is correct. How many statements are correct? It is only one. Moving on to the third statement. Now this statement relates to one of the most important environmental legislations in India, and that is Wildlife Conservation Act. Why is Wildlife Conservation Act in news? Supreme Court, what it has done is, Supreme Court has said that no permission no permission for zoos or safaris will be granted without the nod of the court. Without nod of court. Alright, let's have some preliminary information with respect to Wildlife Protection Act. With respect to Wildlife Protection Act, now, the thing that is in news, okay, the thing that is in news, or the substance of news basically is with respect to National Zoo Authority. National Zoo Authority, which basically is a statutory body established under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Alright, and what are its responsibilities? Basically, it establishes guidelines. It establishes guidelines for the purpose of maintaining minimum standards, some minimum standards for operation and design of zoos. Alright, second is it drafts and implements regulations and rules for ensuring ethical practices in zoos. Conservation, it also focuses on conservation of wildlife. And third, it creates a situation where education and awareness will be provided to public with respect to wildlife. Now, Wildlife Protection Act, one more thing guys, if I may say so, it is the product of Stockholm Conference, which was attended by Indira Gandhi. Alright, and environment as such is present in list 3, that is concurrent list of 7 schedule. So both central government and state government can basically make laws on it. Okay, if I take into consideration the first two statements, the two statements that are provided, what does it include? Under Environment Protection Act, a zoo is defined as an establishment, stationary or mobile, where captive animals are kept for exhibition to public, which also includes circus and establishment for a licensed dealer of captive animals. It does not include circus, does not include, ये common sense है, ठीक है. Zoo का definition will not include circus. This is something that is common sense, more related to common sense than knowledge. Okay, the first statement is wrong. Second statement, zoos are recognized, derecognized by National Zoo Authority established under Environmental Protection Act, obviously, and this was the authority which is in news. ठीक है. Whenever you study about authorities, ना, look at the law or act that created, ठीक है, constitution of that particular authority, यानी chairman and members, and objectives. These are the three infos. These three piece of information is necessary for you. Okay, if I take this into consideration, these two statements into consideration, so obviously the answer will be C, because first statement is incorrect and second statement is correct. Moving on to the next question. Okay, next question reads, consider the following statements. It is about El-Nino and La Nina. So basically, IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, have made predictions with respect to this year's climate based on El-Nino and La Nina. La Nina and El-Nino, sorry. El-Nino. Okay, let us go through some basic information. So what is La Nina and what you need to remember about La Nina for the purpose of answering MCQs, and this is on the basis of previous year's questions. So it basically represents a cooling phase in equatorial Pacific Ocean. Alright, and what it does is it basically brings basically brings cold winds, cold waters basically, not cold winds, where to the Peruvian coast. And this basically results in increased rainfall in some regions. All right. What is El Nino? El Nino basically is warming of Pacific. Which region of Pacific? Central and eastern region of Pacific. What it does is it disrupts normal atmospheric circulation. And that leads to unusual weather phenomena throughout the world. All right. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. El-Nino and La Nina, some basics about it. If you take into consideration the statements provided, La Nina is characterized by unusual cold ocean temperatures in equatorial ocean, Pacific Ocean, yes, whereas El Nino is characterized by unusual warm ocean temperatures in equatorial Pacific Ocean. This statement is correct. This statement basically is correct. We have seen El Nino is mere extension of warm equatorial current. This statement is also correct. If you take into consideration both the statements, what will be the answer? Answer will be C. C. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Okay. Now let us move to the last question, guys. Last question. Okay. So in today's newspaper, what did we see? MIMAS. Basically one of the moons or satellites of Saturn. It was stated that this particular satellite may have ocean in its crust, and because of that, satellites of other planets have also come into news. Satellites of other planets are also coming into news. So what I will recommend is remember some satellites at least. Though UPSC does not get into asking some questions, but maybe in statement forms such question can come up. So with respect to satellites, now remember the satellites of Saturn. Some satellites, for example, Titan हुआ, मिमास हुआ, रिया हुआ, ठीक है, remember Dion हुआ, these satellites. Some of Jupiter, prominent ones, especially those जिस पे probes है, all right, and Uranus. These are the planets which have multiple satellites, hence it is important. So if we take into consideration the match the following questions that it is asked. So Saturn का जो मून है that is Titan, yes, this is correctly matched. Obviously this is correctly matched. Saturn का satellite is Titan. Then Jupiter is not Mimas. In fact, Mimas again is the satellite of Saturn. अभी हमने देखा, that is why it was in news. And Titania is of Uranus. This is correct. So first and third are correct. So how many statements are correctly matched? B. Only 2 are correctly matched. So that is it, guys. We'll meet again tomorrow and we'll discuss concepts and MCQs on that concepts. Alright, thank you so much.